Hi everyone, I can see there are some people joining. We're just going to wait around 2 minutes for everyone to be able to join the session. Thanks everyone for joining us this morning. I just mentioned, but I will just repeat myself. We are just going to wait around 2 minutes until to give time for everyone to join the session today. So let's just wait another minute. Just 30 more seconds, and then we can start. Hi, Daphne. Okay, so let's just wait 10 more seconds. Okay, I think most of us should be in already, so let's start with it. So everyone, welcome back to our back to school. We had our first session back in September. So today we're going to present the latest industry updates on Google, Facebook, Amazon, and social advertising. So as our last session was in September, we are going to cover Q4 2020 until now. So for those who don't know me, I am Erika. I'm the head of Biddable at Roast, and we also have George, our paid media account manager.
Hi.
And Rebecca.
Hi.
One of our other paid media account managers. In terms of content, we have quite a lot of Google Ads updates. So we split into 3 sections, being Google Ads product updates, data privacy updates, platform updates, Microsoft Ads, social, Amazon advertising, and Q&A. But because we have quite a lot of updates, I'm going to ask you to ask any questions during the presentation, because then we can ensure all of them are answered. I'm not sure exactly how long we will have in the end, so please ask as many questions as you want during the presentation. So let's start with Google Ads product updates. So broad match keyword suggestions will start surfacing in recommendations. This was an update back in November 2020. So if you're using smart bidding, Google will identify existing keywords that are likely to improve performance if you switch them to broad match. Just for who are not that used to broad match. So one example on how it works is that if you have low carb diet plan, like the example, in broad match, your ads can be triggered if people search for low calories recipes, which is really similar, but also more generic terms like Mediterranean diet book. So by pairing a broad match keyword with smart bidding, you can use auction time signals to set the right bid for each of these queries. So this means that you no longer need to anticipate and manage every potential search. So the idea behind this and many recent Google updates is to simplify PPC management. But updates like this have been questioned by a lot of advertisers. And the next slide is the most recent one that we actually wrote a blog post about. So last Thursday, Google announced changes to BMM and phrase match. So from mid-February this year, BMM match type is phasing out. And from July 2021, the creation of BMM keywords will no longer be available. So Google claims that this change to phrase match and BMM intends to simplify keywords and make it easier to reach relevant customers. So this update actually does not come as a big surprise because Google was already encouraging advertisers to use broad match as per my previous slide. And phrase match will start including behaviors of broad match modifiers. So both BMM and phrase match will have the same matching behaviors. As you can see on the screenshot. I guess some already considered that phrase had a similar behavior as BMM, so it doesn't come as a shock. But other advertisers are unhappy with this change because it's another move to strip away more data and controls from advertisers. On that subject, it's worth remembering that last year, even on the last industry update, I mentioned that Google is limiting the amount of search terms that are appearing on search term reports. So again, limiting reporting and control from advertisers. I will list some pros and cons on this update. So pros, it simplifies the account setup and optimizations, but it just simplifies because it's taking some options from advertisers. BMM was already very similar to phrase, so in theory is not changing that much. The only difference is that BMM didn't necessarily take into consideration the word order. And in general, it will save time. Some cons, the new phrase update will only respect the word order when it's important to the meaning. So for some industries where the order is very important, so let's say travel and hotels, advertisers will have to fully rely on machine learning to understand that the word order is important. And the problem is we know that machine learning is not always perfect, so we can use as an example the close variants that are not always relevant. So Google won't always get it right. Another con is that it restricts traffic from advertisers that rely a lot on BMM keywords because phrase match won't catch all the traffic. So if you see on the graphic, this gray area is the part that is not going to catch, which shouldn't affect that much, but we will see in the next few months. So this will potentially mean that they will be forced to add broad match into their campaigns. So similar to the update that I mentioned before, Google is forcing towards a more broad match approach. And by forcing advertisers towards the broad match, Google is taking control from advertisers to optimize and making us rely more and more on machine learning. As transparency is lower, it's harder for advertisers to know if their spend is being wasted, especially taking into consideration that now we don't have access to as many search terms as we had in the search term reports. But I just wanted to conclude in a more positive note and give some hope to everyone. So Google was pushing towards a more simplified account since Q1 last year. So that's why this update is not a massive surprise. And at Roast, we've seen really positive results with this change. So when I say simplified accounts, I mean adding broad match and exact match in the same ad group instead of splitting to different ad groups or splitting to different campaigns. And for some of our clients, conversion rates jumped as high as 221%, which is really, really good. So another update in December last year. So Google, actually I presented on the last industry updates that lead forms extensions were available on YouTube, but now it's available across most campaigns. So YouTube, discovery, and search. They are available in the extensions page on Google Ads. And this means that you can use the same lead form across different campaign types. In addition, advertisers can now choose from over 50 available questions to customize lead forms. Again, on the last webinar, I mentioned that Google is adding more B2B options, which is really good because usually they were a lot focused on B2C, but some really specific questions. So for example, let's say an advertiser wants to drive qualified calls for their car dealership. They can now ask questions like, which type of vehicle are you interested in, or when are you planning to purchase? So lead forms are great, but advertisers also need to keep in mind that CRM integration is the best solution to make the user journey more seamless. And that's why Google partnered with Zapier to help advertisers easily connect their lead forms with the CRM system. In terms of requirements, because a lot of people get excited about lead forms, but there are some minimum requirements. The main one is that the account needs to have historically spent at least $50,000. I guess is a big problem for smaller advertisers, but is historically speaking. So you just need to have spent in your lifetime $50,000 on Google. And when I say dollars, if you were spending pounds, you just need to convert the amount to $50,000. So there are some other requirements like a good history of policy compliance, and you need to be on an eligible vertical. When I say that most verticals are allowed, but it's more in terms of sensitive verticals are not allowed. So that's all. There are a few more requirements, but these are the main ones. The next one is some really exciting news, but at the same time, I don't know how long this will last, because I know with the updates with the iOS 14, I know that Google is also thinking about updating Android's policies. But if they launch that, I mean, probably there is some hope. But Google is rolling out app campaigns types for engaging existing users. So app campaigns for engagement are aimed at targeting an app's existing users, bringing users back to the app. So it's basically people that downloaded the app, so you can re-engage and encourage them to use the app. So the retargeting ads can feature new offers or content to bring users back who may not have used the app for a while. Some other requirements as well. So you need to have a minimum base of 250,000 installs. This is because then your audience is large enough to achieve your campaign goals. And you need also to have some more technical, there are some requirements in terms of the technical side. So for example, having the latest version of Google Analytics for Firebase as SDK. So yeah, it's worth having a look. If you have at least 250,000 installs, it's something you can consider for your app. And some really refreshing news. YouTube now gets into audio ads, so audio ads are now available on YouTube. These are 15 seconds audio ads, and you just need to have a still image or a simple animation and a landing page. And this is not only available on Google Ads, but also DV360, and they are bought on a CPM basis. They are mainly focused on awareness, and that's what Google is saying. So in their study, 75% of audio ads drove a significant lift in brand awareness, but it will also be good to see how this impacts conversions. And a related update, so Google is standardizing conversion attribution across all video campaigns. So it's challenging for all advertisers to assess the impact of video ad campaigns on conversions when you can compare across ad formats, video ad formats. So Google is standardizing conversion attribution to help advertisers compare the impacts of video campaigns more accurately across all skippable, in-stream, and feed video formats, that are measured through Google Ads conversion tracking. So what these will allow is advertisers to compare conversion performance between two different campaign types more accurately. So an advertiser running a video action, so Target CPA campaign and a video consideration cost per view can now compare the conversion attribution performance in the same way. Just keep in mind that if you want to drive conversions, you still need to focus on video action, but it's just that you can measure in a standard attribution across all your video campaigns. Changes to Gmail campaigns. So starting from July 1st, Gmail ads will become read-only. This means that after this date, advertisers will not be able to create new Google Gmail campaigns or make changes to existing Gmail campaigns, including edits to existing ads. So Gmail is now being incorporated into discovery ads. So from July 1st of July, if you want to continue serving ads on Gmail, you will have to create a discovery campaign which will cover more than just Gmail. It also covers other surfaces such as YouTube and discovery. So now I'll go through some updates around data privacy. So Google recently launched a blog on how advertisers will be able to deliver results in a cookieless world and how the targeting is going to look like. It's all up in the air, and it's basically Google showing a few options on how it will look like. So if you have any specific questions, I don't know if I will be able to answer, but I would encourage you to read the full article, because it's very interesting, but it can get quite technical. But I will give a few examples on how it could look like in the future. So Google mentioned that targeting will be more about clustering large groups of people with similar interests, rather than focused on single users the way it is nowadays. So a new technology will start being tested in Google Ads in Q2. So it's very, very soon. And hopefully I will have more updates for you on the next industry updates. And Chrome submitted a proposal called Turtle Dove, so advertisers can still reach prior visitors to their website via retargeting. So hopefully that will be a really positive way of keep doing remarketing. And just one advice for everyone, that GTM is going to be more useful than ever because it can minimize disruptions in website tagging during this time of change. So these are the main takeaways, but I would encourage you to read the full article on their blog, which is on the link, and we will send the presentation around. And a big topic of discussion is preparing iOS 14 policy updates. So for those who don't know why the iOS 14, why the update in the iOS 14 going to affect advertisers. So Apple's upcoming app tracking transparency, which is called ATT policy, will require developers to ask for permission when they use certain information from other companies' apps and websites for advertising purposes, even if they already have user consent. So as a consequence, app publishers may see significant impacts to their Google Ad revenue on iOS after Apple's ATT policy takes effect. So as part of the iOS 14 updates, it will be giving users the choice to block the IDFA. IDFA is an identifier for advertisers at the app level. So among other changes, what it means is the iOS 14 updates will require apps to ask users for permission to collect and share data. So that's a massive update, and Google most recent blog on this subject listed a few actions that advertisers should be taken prior to this change. So upgrading to the latest version of Google Analytics for Firebase for new features like SQA network support, and monitor performance and delivery of all iOS app campaigns closely, and if necessary, make adjustments to budgets and bids to achieve their goals. There will be another update on this presentation about Facebook. But yeah, that's what we have for now, and hopefully we'll be able to give more information in the near future. Now going to hand over to Rebecca.
Lovely, thank you, Erika. So for the final section for Google Ads, we'll just go over a few platform updates within the platform itself and Google Editor as well. So firstly is the new Insights page. This is in beta, but you might have noticed just under the recommendations tab, there's a new Insights tab in the platform itself. And this allows you to explore trends further in your account. So it is based at account level currently. So you won't be able to see trends, particularly at more granular level for campaigns. So if you do have services or products split that way, it's just going to take 3 or 4 trends at account level only. Basically, it's a deep dive into trends and to understand where search is on the rise and where there's growth based on what your keywords you have in your account. It helps identify more trends in your market and can help you identify perhaps new areas to bid on with paid search or areas for your client to grow in if it's definitely trending. What it does do is update daily as well, so you can't see previous trend periods such as going back to December and seeing what was on trend perhaps on the 16th of December, but you can see month on month, year on year trends. So it's quite similar to Google Trends platform itself, where you can see where there's a spike in interest and dip in interest and see growth over time. Next update is for Google Ads Editor. So they've released a version 1.5 and there's just a few new tools and updates available on this. So there's the update of making it easier to optimize your responsive search ads at scale. So inside there, they now have ad strength, so you can see whether your RSA ads are what Google ranked them as kind of weak average or above average. So you can make changes at a scale for these. There are a few more recommendation types. So similar to what we see on the platform itself in the recommendation tab, they've just kind of streamlined that and added more recommendations that you see in the tab. So it's easy to update these in editor as well. There is a few new ones such as adopting target ROISA bidding and ways to improve your RSA ads. And lastly is in editor now supports image extensions, so you can add these in or edit them in the platform as well. Next is explanations. So for any of you that haven't used this before, these are just ways to discover where your account has changed if you are looking at a comparison time period. And basically explanations will appear across your cost and conversion metrics. They're in beta at the moment and it's not across every campaign. But you can just basically see a brief explanation of why there might have been changes in your cost or conversions week on week, month on month. And it will give you a small summary of whether it's changed because of Target CPA, bid limits, or budget changes perhaps. And what they've done is now expanded this to include Target CPA campaigns on search. So it's mainly only available on search campaigns, but I guess in the next few industry updates, we might see this expand to perhaps display, shopping, and other different ad types as well. And then next is the new data exclusion controls for smart bidding. So say you're in a scenario perhaps where your website is either gone down or perhaps ad tracking wasn't live for 3 days. This generally affects smart bidding quite heavily and the machine learning, but now you can actually exclude the periods where perhaps your conversion tracking was breaking, just to avoid any of your technical issues kind of impacting smart bidding. So you just go into the advanced settings and exclude these areas. So the smart bidding will actually only look avoiding these areas and it won't overall affect your kind of hopefully conversions going forward as it would previously. I would say this is only available on search, shopping and display campaigns. So if your perhaps tracking did break on Apple app campaigns, then there is actually no solution for this currently. It's only for those 3 ad types. And lastly, you can now bid across accounts with multiple portfolio bid strategies. So if you do have multiple accounts in Google Ads that perhaps have the same goals and same KPIs, you can now set a bid strategy across multiple accounts just all in one place. So it's easier to streamline and drive performance across these accounts and easy to quickly change if they all do have the same kind of conversion setup. At the moment, similarly to a few of the other product updates, it's only available on search and shopping campaigns, but it's just kind of an easy way to manage. if they all do have the same KPI. If there is multiple different KPIs or conversions set up, then we wouldn't recommend to use this portfolio bid strategy across multiple accounts. Lovely. So I'll just hand over to my colleague George to run through Microsoft Ads.
Thank you, Rebecca. Yeah, so starting with Microsoft Ads, they have finally added impression share targeting as an automated strategy. This is something which has obviously been around with Google for quite a while now, but it's good to see it come to Microsoft Ads. It's especially good if you are running ads in a quite competitive landscape where it's more important to get at the top of the page or on the front page rather than sort of an acquisition focus. So just trying to get ahead of competitors, this is a really good option to have on Microsoft Ads now. And it's set up in almost exactly the same way as Google Ads already, if you're already familiar with it. Another similar thing is the optimization score has come to Microsoft Ads as well. This is something, again, Google have been pushing pretty heavily over the last year. But this will essentially rank your account health out of 100% and give you recommendations for how to improve it. So whether it's increasing budget so you're not limited, or adding new keywords, adding new ads, removing redundant keywords. This is a really good place to start if you're looking at the account but not quite sure what needs to change. This gives you a very good jumping off point, and you can see your score increase as you make changes. So these filter link extensions are new and unique to Microsoft Ads. You can see here they are similar to site links, but essentially more categorized, and there's many more of them. So in this example, there's price, deals, and different flower types. So it really allows you to segment different site links in different areas of your website, whereas previously you'd only have sort of 4 options to show in a site link. As a result of that, we'd probably expect click-through rates to increase just because you're giving the user so many different options, and there's a good chance that if they've searched for something relevant, one of these links, if not your landing page, is going to show them something that they want to see, whether it's Mother's Day flowers or specifically tulips. Remains to be seen exactly how these will interact with other ad extensions. They obviously take up quite a lot of space here, so they might not all show all 3 categories at once, but we'll have to see sort of what is prioritized here. And the last update is just that manual CPC is being removed from Microsoft Ads. I don't expect many people are still using this, but it will automatically migrate to enhanced CPC, which is sort of the easiest smart bidding strategy to run. It's very similar to manual CPC, but it will just adjust bids up and down. But the expected performance is likely to be stronger. So they expect 5 to 10% more conversions while maintaining a similar CPA. So the recommendation is just to get ahead of it. It will happen regardless at the end of April. So it's probably best, if you are still using manual CPC, to just make those changes ahead of time so you have the control and it's not being done for you. So now looking at updates to various social platforms, starting with Snapchat. So this is their first commercial format. For those who don't know, Snapchat has shows essentially. So these range from small, short docu series to daily news bites, entertainment news and things like that. So it's content specifically curated for Snapchat. And this first commercial is essentially the ad break in between those shows, very much like you'd get on TV. The first commercial where it gets its name is it guarantees it's the first ad which a user will see on that day between these premium shows. So you really are getting out in front of the users as they're watching this and they've not been saturated with ads already. So this will be an interesting one to see whether that has more impact than just regular ads in between shows. Definitely one to look into if you're running anything on Snapchat. So built-in shopping cart is coming to Instagram TV and Reels. Reels launched in August last year, and they've been rolling this update out from October. So it was always inevitable that some sort of shopping integration would come to these ad types. Reels were sort of the answer to TikTok a bit for Instagram. So slightly longer form videos, but it allows retailers to show off a wider range of products with different views, while linking specifically to the products which have been highlighted in the Reel or IGTV. And most importantly, lets users buy them all within Instagram. So it's a really seamless customer flow. They don't have to go to another website, which might be slowly loading. They can all do it from immediately what they've seen, decide that they like it, and go straight through to checkout. Similarly, product tags can now be added to ads. Previously, there wasn't much control from an ad perspective around what you could do about this, but now advertisers can create ads specifically with different product tags from scratch. Again, as we just mentioned, this can all be purchased within the platform, so it's a really seamless user experience. The ads can show within users' feeds as they're just scrolling through, or in the explore section. They both look very similar, but this also gives some additional options in terms of audience targeting, so you can create custom audiences based on people who might have added something to their checkout but not purchased, or interacted with the shopping ads in some other way. So it does give some good new options there for retailers on Instagram as well, and I think this will be quite effective for a lot of brands. Similarly, TikTok is getting into the shopping game with an integration with Shopify. This is their first major partnership, and it's likely a sign of more shopping type product ads to come. TikTok have been announcing quite a lot of new features. Aside from shopping, they're also starting to run lead gen ads as well. And we'd expect similar features to what we've just seen on Instagram to start coming to TikTok, where users can check out sort of all in one place. So that's definitely one to keep an eye out for moving forward as well, if you're a retailer and you want to utilize this platform. So on the Twitter front, they are giving more control over frequency capping. So advertisers can say exactly how many impressions they want a person to see in a campaign, which is really good for awareness type activity. So this isn't for all objectives, it's only across reach, video views, pre-roll views, and engagement ad objectives. But having this control allows you to reach new customers as well, rather than your ads just showing to the same people over and over. Twitter actually released some interesting research at the same time as this, showing sort of what the optimal frequency is for different ad types. So that's well worth a read, which we've linked here, because for brand awareness, it's going to vary. So whether you want more impressions over a shorter period of time or fewer impressions but over a month or so, they both have different impacts. And now lastly, as Erika mentioned, on the Google front, there are changes on Facebook due to the ATT update with Apple. So the first one is more related to the attribution settings. So on Facebook, the default attribution view was 28 days and 1 day view. That's no longer possible. The newest default attribution method is 7-day click, and you can't go beyond a 1 day view following this update as well by default. What you can do, however, is in the Facebook ad platform, you can compare attribution windows. So we found that the default attribution results, which we're pulling into the platform, they weren't matching what the client was seeing internally. So after investigating different attribution windows, we found that it had changed to the 7-day click, but it wasn't reporting on that immediately. And that did match what was being shown client side. So if you've seen any discrepancies in the data there, that's well worth investigating. On the iOS 14 side of things, sorry, very quickly, they do expect audience sizes to decrease as users are opting into that. There's less data to target. They're also going to start modeling out conversions using what they expect people with that update may have, how they may have converted. So there's likely to be some reporting delays and potentially a reduction in reported conversions as well. But I think this is, again, something for everyone to keep an eye on in the coming months. And now it's back to Rebecca to talk more about the Amazon side of things.
Lovely. So just before we run through the Amazon advertising, this is the last section of the updates. So if anyone has any questions, please add in the Q&A because we'll answer them after this section. Right, so we just run through a few different Amazon advertising updates. So on the first front is with sponsored brands. So there are a few different updates on this one being the creative. If you have a current deal on your product, say a limited time deal or a lightning deal, this will now pull in as a new deals messaging within the sponsored brand. So as shown in the asset to the right hand side here, there's the limited time deal and the 15% off. So any kind of deal will now actually just pull in automatically from the organic feed and update in your sponsored brand ads. So there's no need to perhaps add deal messaging in the character limit. Also available is you can now different reporting. So beforehand, if you wanted to see what search terms were appearing in your sponsored brand ads, you had to download a report across all your campaigns and accounts. But now you can actually go into each individual campaign and review what search terms are pulling through and either negate them or perhaps add them to the account if performance is strong. Next is a few updates to sponsored display ad types. So there's new customization. So beforehand, we haven't actually been able to really customize the ad asset in any way for sponsored display ads on this platform. But you can now add a new headline and logo across a few different advertiser locations for each product targeting. If you do have multiple products perhaps in the same sponsored display ad, a forewarning would be to really think about your headline because they will appear across multiple products. And maybe if you wanted a bit more of a unique headline for each product, you might have to split these out each campaign. But also the headline's quite limited as well because it's only 50 characters for this headline. And if you are using this customization, there are just a few additional placements you can appear on throughout the Amazon platform across both desktop and mobile. And there's also updates, so similar to Google where you have the MCC, Amazon have now updated it so you can manage multiple advertising accounts in a single dashboard. So you will have to create an individual manager account, but it is available across sellers, vendors, and agencies across the Amazon advertising console. And you can place all your different accounts into a single dashboard. So if you have got accounts split per perhaps different EU locations or brand, you can actually view performance all in one place. So it'd be easy to compare and maybe shift budgets to areas that are performing well. And also just consolidate a list of like billing actions all in one place and just to see alerts. So it's kind of easier than what its current setup is at the moment, where you have to go through in each individual account to see performance. Whereas now you can actually export data just all in one place. And a small update is that sponsored ads and stores have now launched in Brazil and Netherlands. So this is eligible for sellers and vendors, but it only has sponsored products, sponsored brand ads and stores available at the moment. So there's no sponsored displays for both of these locations. They've now available since December and January. If you are an EU seller, you can automatically sell in the Netherlands and advertise there. So very quick to set up advertising if you already have your organic listings set up in the Netherlands advertising. For Brazil, it's probably worth speaking to your Amazon rep about if you want to start pushing activity over there, if it's an opportunity for you or perhaps a client or business. And then last update for sponsored display is the new audiences available. So beforehand, we couldn't actually remarket at all across any of the sponsored ad types. It was only available in the DSP, but now you can actually re-engage audiences if they've looked at one of your product pages and not purchased. There's a 30-day window. You can show adverts back to these people. And they also have similar to advertise product. So it leverages Amazon's machine learning algorithm, and you can show to products that are similar to yours and just add a lot more scale. We have started using this here. And what I would say is if you add both of these different audience types through marketing and similar audiences to a single campaign, a lot more impressions will go towards the similar audience because there's a lot more scale there. So if you want to push budget towards remarketing, it's probably worth separating into a different campaign. And lastly is just a different reporting available on Amazon. So they have released search term, impression rank, and share report. It is only limited to sponsored brand ad types at the moment. So that's only available for one out of the actual 3 ad types available on the platform. But you can now see impression share per each search term. I would say it's kind of a bit too granular because you can't actually see search term within the platform at campaign or ad group or at keyword level. It's actually only at search terms, so it's probably only worth viewing for your kind of keywords that are getting a lot more of impressions or the most relevant towards your business. Otherwise, it's a bit too granularly split at the moment as well. But hopefully they'll add that eventually to the account as well.
Thank you for joining us. It was really nice, and we hope to have more sessions like this because we believe it's a really good way to keep everyone updated, but also to have an open debate about the updates. Thank you very much, everyone, and have a great day.